Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the Real Cass Perry, and today we have a bit of what I would call a controversial and sensitive topic in the specific area where I grew up. So, I seen an article in the Saltwire News the other day, which is basically just the Nova Scotia newspaper, I guess, whatever. The headline was, "Lawlessness on the Water as DFO officers allege federal fisheries minister making their jobs unsafe." So, the frontline DFO officers are alleging that Federal Fisheries Minister Diane LeBoutelier and the top department brass are putting them in danger. So, how exactly are they putting them in danger, and why is this occurring? Well, officers at an undetermined number of detachments around southern Nova Scotia submitted notices refusing to perform unsafe work over 2 weeks ago under Section 128.6 of the Canada Labour Code. So, the Canada Labour Code is basically just our laws and regulations that have to do with workplace safety and all of that good jazz. So Section 126 is basically just your right to refuse unsafe work. But the thing is that if you're a DFO officer, every single part of your job is completely and utterly unsafe at every single point in time. Even if you're a fisherman, every single part of your job is very unsafe all of the time. As soon as you get onto that boat, you are risking your life. I'm sorry to tell you this, but that's the way it goes. However, the reason that they are refusing specifically to do unsafe work in this job is threats of violence. So, apparently what's going on is that they are refusing to conduct enforcement patrols, citing rising violence against them and threats of violence against their families by unlicensed fishers, which, I'm gonna be completely honest, the licensing laws I don't fully agree with. I think that only one person on the boat should have to have a license. That should be the person who is running and manning the boat, and they should be properly training all of their crew members to make sure that everybody on the boat is running the boat to their specific standards and make sure that everything is running smoothly and according to the laws of the water. Like, specifically lobster fishing, if you're out lobster fishing, you can't, have codfish. You have to get rid of the codfish if they're in your lobster traps, immediately. And you have to make sure that minimal damage and minimal harm comes to the codfish, which, I mean, they are going to have a little bit of harm. They're going to be aggravated because you just pulled their asses out of the water. However, you still have to put them back in without hurting them, is kind of the thing. Immediately, as soon as possible, you make sure that they are out of that lobster trap and back in the water without hurting the fish, so that you don't affect the cod population. There's also a rule about larger sized lobsters and smaller sized lobsters. If you have a larger sized lobster, it's a bloody bingo unless it has eggs. If your lobster is a female lobster, it is carrying eggs. It doesn't matter how big it is, you have to put it back in the water because that is a female lobster. It has baby lobsters attached to it. It's a mama. You gotta put the mamas back. If the lobster is too small, it's a baby lobster. You have to measure them before you can keep them on the boat. Before you even put the bands on the claws, you have to measure that. Do you know how difficult it is sometimes? When they're fresh out of the water and going snap, 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 snap. And then you just gotta be holding them so that you can get the band, so that you can get this thing across their back just to see if they're big enough. It's very difficult to not get pinched. But, like I say, if the person who is running the boat is training everybody properly, then there shouldn't be any kind of issues with anybody breaking the laws. If you are out on the water at any point in time, however, it does not matter if you are a licensed or unlicensed fisherman, if you're just out there sailing, if a DFO officer comes and boards your boat, be bloody well nice to them. Like, they are not, their job is not to get violently attacked, okay? Like, they're just doing their jobs. Literally, all that they're there to do is inspect the fish and go. Like, they're literally just there to inspect your fish, possibly give you a fine if they find something a little bit wonky, make sure that everybody has their fishing licenses, which, once again, I don't think that everybody should have to have their fishing licenses. I think that everybody should just, like, the captain should have to have their fishing licenses, and everybody else who works on the boat should just have to prove that they are a regular, decent human being that will understand and adhere to the rules of the water. I do 100% think that they should absolutely be enforcing the laws about the seasons and stuff. Like, fishing seasons are there for a reason. It has to do with conservation, but just be nice to your local DFO officers. They are not there to hurt you or bother you or make anybody upset. They're just there to do their jobs. Anyways, just saying. So, and this is quoted, these have included physical acts of violence against officers, attempted assaults using vehicles and vessels, harvesters, and harvesters attempting to disarm fishery officers from their sidearms, utterances of violence and death threats towards the officers and their families. Reads a refusal to do unsafe work letter sent by frontline officers to DFO management and obtained by the Chronicle Herald. Now, there is a manner of dealing with them that is acceptable, and there is a manner of dealing with them that is absolutely not acceptable. The manner of dealing with them that is acceptable is, hello sir, how are you doing today? Is there something that I can help you with? You wanted to come look through our stuff, go right ahead. We're not going to bother anything. I'm going to go get the documentation, everything for the boat. If you need anything else, let me know. You go ahead and go through all my crates and all of that good jazz. I'm just going to go hang out in the wheelhouse and wait for you. You do your thing. And then you just go sit around and wait for that nice person who just came onto your boat to come look through your fish to make sure that you didn't have any violations, and possibly not even fine you. Just say, oh, hey, you guys did a good job, or maybe, oh, you made a small mistake, maybe look for this a little bit closer next time. If you do have a violation and it's something that's a teachable moment, they're not going to fine you. They're going to teach you how to avoid that, so that you're not going to get in trouble with the next person, because it is going to stay on the record of that boat that happened on that boat. Seems kind of simple. And if you are out fishing outside of the season, if you are poaching lobsters, if your boat is unlicensed to fish, if there are multiple people who are unlicensed to fish on said boat, if your boat is licensed to fish and nobody on the boat has their fishing license, then you are breaking a law and there is something going on, especially poaching. If you are fishing for anything, absolutely anything, outside of that fishing season, during its spawning season, I don't know how to say this, but you are helping destroy the environment, you are helping kill off a species, and that is going to cause a whole chain effect that you don't even realize, and you really don't give a shit. You're greedy. You're greedy. Multiple entire provinces, and I think a couple of states down in the US, depend upon the lobster industry. They depend upon the eel industry. They depend upon different types of fishing industries in order to maintain their entire communities. Every single community in multiple different places is maintained by the fishing industry, by the farming industry in certain areas of Nova Scotia and the US. I'm getting worked up. But yeah, there are so many different communities that depend upon the fishing industry and depend upon the lobster industry. And y'all are going to tell me that you think that it's okay to just go and blatantly start destroying that by fishing out of season and making sure that no other fishermen are actually catching anything. Most of y'all probably aren't even making very much money off of poaching lobsters, because there is not a respectable plant, there is not a respectable fish plant out there, not a single one, that is going to buy your poached lobsters. And if you are going door to door selling these lobsters, somebody is going to tell on you. Everybody who does this gets caught at some point. And you know what? If you are out there poaching out of season and selling fish that are not in season during their spawning season, you are a monster. You absolutely deserve to have DFO charge you. And if you're going to threaten that person with violence for upholding the law and actually being the conservationist that they were employed to be, that they wanted to be when they decided to join the DFO, there's something wrong with you. To actually incite violence upon anybody for just doing their goddamn job, just because, oh, I don't want to get in trouble, I don't want to get charged, oh, I'm gonna say that I'm doing this to feed my family, but I'm just greedy. I could have went and got a fishing license and actually got a job on a boat, but no, I decided not to because I'm an asshole. Seriously? That's messed up. And, oof. The thing is that the dangers not only affect the physical well-being of them and their colleagues, but it causes so much mental health strain, compounding in a serious concern for their mental health. Like, now they're going to think that every boat that they hop onto, somebody is going to cause some kind of a physical altercation with them. And at the end of the day, most of these people are just out there fishing legally. Like, just saying. The letter that they got, that the Chronicle Herald got, that was also sent to the Saltwire, it went on to state that the fisheries officers have no support from senior DFO management, and that public statements made by Le Boutelier have made their jobs much more unsafe. The letter appears to be a reference to an announcement by Le Boutelier. I have no idea if I'm actually pronouncing this properly, by the way. Le Boutelier? Le Boutelier? Le Boutelier? Le Boutelier? Le Boutelier? Le Boutelier? I'm going to go with Le Boutelier because it sounds correct. It looks like a French name. Announcement by Le Boutelier of an olive government investigation into a March 26th incident where fisheries officers allegedly left 2 First Nations Elver harvesters at a gas station with no cell phones and no boots. If that happened, then those specific fisheries officers need to lose their jobs and they should not be working within any kind of enforcement agency ever again. But if it didn't happen, and or if it's just a huge exaggeration, then leave them alone. But I have no idea what happened. Nobody ever accused me of being smart. I can't accuse me of being smart. I'm not smart, okay? I'm actually a fucking idiot, and I will be the first person to say that. I am dumb. Like, you probably shouldn't, yes, do listen to me because it's probably quite entertaining, but you probably shouldn't listen to me because I have no goddamn idea what I'm talking about. Okay? Okay. Apparently, the incident occurred as fisheries officers were attempting to crack down on illegal harvesting of juvenile American eels, known as elvers. The eels can be caught with a dip net as they make their way into this province's rivers each spring, and they sell for thousands of dollars a kilogram. And exporters who send them to China to be used as seed stock in aquaculture facilities there. Over recent years, First Nations have declared a moderate livelihood right to catch the species, which they absolutely do when the treaty was made with the First Nations and the colonizers. I shouldn't even say that. I don't even like that word. Not sure if anybody figured this out or not, but I'm not really white. I just pass for it. But anyways, the First Nations absolutely do have the right to catch the elver species for their livelihood. They were declared to have the right to all of the land and rivers. The land and sea, I guess, was the part of the treaty, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to actually, but either way, they have full right to catch the elver eels. As long as they're not overcatching, like, as long as they're just catching enough to, like, either feed their family. I don't know if they're eating them, but do people eat those? I don't know. But if they're just, like, doing it just to get enough to, like, maintain their livelihood and feed their families, then why not? I don't see an issue with it. There's no issue at all. As long as people aren't going to try to fish out a species, then who am I to give a shit? Anyways, DFO took 14% of the quota from licensed commercial elver harvesters. Why can't I speak? Elver harvesters, elver harvesters, elver harvesters, elver harvesters. You know what? That's kind of a tongue twister. Try to say that, guys. Try to say it. I dare you. Try to say it. Ain't nobody gonna watch this anyway. In 2022, without compensation and transferred it to First Nations, it has been announced that its intention to do the same with another 50% of the quota next year. So, either way, they're getting money out of it. Many First Nations members without access to any of that reallocated quota have continued fishing, claiming a moderate livelihood rate, which they absolutely do have if they do not have the access to the reallocated quota. Now, with little apparent federal enforcement, large numbers of poachers who aren't First Nations members and don't have rights-based claims to the resource have also taken to the rivers. And the fact of the matter is that if you are doing that and you're going and fishing the elver eels without a license, without having any kind of proper distribution done, if you are going around and you are trying to attack the Department of Fisheries officers and threatening them because you couldn't go and get your elver eel license, you couldn't take the time out of your day to go do that, you just have to go be greedy and you want to go try to sell them illegally, and you think that you're not going to get caught, and you're not even, like, you don't even actually have the right to do it, you're gross. Anybody who actually thinks that it is an awesome idea to use violence or any kind of aggression against the DFO for simply doing their job, and I don't really give a shit what you are doing out there on the water, to be completely honest, and I don't care what you're doing out there. That DFO officer is just doing their job. I do care if you're breaking the law, but at the same time, I really don't. Like, there are certain laws that the DFO have to enforce that I don't think should absolutely be enforced in the way that they are. And or I think that the way that the laws are made should change, like, just a little bit. Just be a teeny tiny bit more lenient, but, like, you know what I mean. Just make things a tiny bit easier for people. Just saying. Just saying. But I do think that any and all laws that have to do with conservation of any kind of a species, especially when it has to do with the fisheries, is absolutely important, and we should not be getting violent with any of the DFO officers. I don't care if it's Land and Forest, I don't care if it's the Department of Fisheries, I don't care if it's the RCMP. Why are you getting violent with them? They are just doing their jobs. Unless they are coming in guns a-blazing for no freaking reason, and, like, Actually, even then, you should just put your hands up and cooperate. Just cooperate with them. You will not get hurt. They will not get hurt. Everybody's probably going to walk away without a scratch. Maybe somebody's going to have to pay a couple $100 fine. But you know what? That is, honestly, I'm not even getting into this one anymore. Let's just keep going into this. Violence on this province's rivers has gotten successfully worse. Each of the last 5 years, with shootings, kidnappings, RCMP reports of biker gangs seeking involvement, and widespread carrying of firearms by unlicensed harvesters. And all of this was leading to the fisheries' early closure in 2023. And Le Boutelier did not open the commercial fishery at all this year, citing that last year's DFO violence and concerns about the DFO's inability to enforce an orderly fishery. Which makes perfect sense to me. They should close the season if it is causing all of this ruckus. After being raked over the coals by MPs on the House of Commons Standing Committee on Fisheries and Oceans in February for losing control of the fishery, DFO brass ordered fishery officers to crack down on unlicensed harvesters who took to the rivers this spring despite the season being canceled, which they absolutely should. If the season is canceled, just don't go eel fishing. The fudge. Like, I understand. I would be very disappointed if lobster season got canceled. I would be extremely disappointed to the point of bawling my sweet little eyes out if I didn't get to go fishing one year. But you know what? There's always next year. If everybody abides by the law and actually goes with the rules for freaking once, things won't get ruined for everyone else. Just saying. While making a housing announcement in Dartmouth on April 2nd, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was confronted by First Nations members protesting their treatment by DFO officers. Questioned by reporters on the March 26th incident at the gas station, Trudeau said, "These reports are very troubling and there needed to be a full investigation," which there should be, but why are y'all taking this directly to the Prime Minister? Like, this is an internal affair. Just let them deal with it. If it was actually a racism thing, then yes, fire them. By all means, fire them. But God damn it, leave the Prime Minister out of it. Like, that idiot can't even... I don't even want to get into my thoughts on Trudeau, because holy hobgoblins. But that idiot can't differentiate a drag queen from an actual trans person. I'm sorry, but if you're doing drag, you're not trans. You're cross-dressing, you're a drag queen. Like, you are a big, beautiful man. You dress like a woman. You are a woman when you are in your persona. But when you are not, you're probably the cutest little dude I ever seen. Just saying. Anyways, and then on July 8th, Le Boutelier made the following announcement: the government of Canada will be launching... Hi, sadist. The government of Canada will be launching a comprehensive external review to examine the offense of March 26, 2024 and the conduct of the DFO fishery officers involved as the DFO policies, enforcement practices, and procedures to eradicate the potential for systemic bias or racism. Which, yeah, works. But the letter of refusal to do unsafe work states that a lack of support from the highest level of DFO management, along with comments from the minister, are making their job more dangerous. These statements have further emboldened clients to resist enforcement actions of fishery officers, undermining the safety of fishery officers, and resulting in ever-increasing hostile encounters. Once again, should not be happening. Like, These incidents, along with intelligence suggesting weapons, organized crime, outlaw motorcycle gang influence, violence towards fishery officers, threats towards fishery officers, have been well documented. And these issues have also been brought to the attention of senior leadership. But their concerns have largely been ignored. And why is that? Heaven only knows. It was stated by a member of the DFO, I no longer feel it is safe to conduct my duties in the field, and if I act on policy and law, it has been made apparent that my employer will not support my actions. Sources have told the Chronicle Herald that officers are seeking out body armor capable of stopping high-powered rifle rounds, body-worn cameras to document their interactions with unlicensed harvesters, and training in drugs. Supervisors at the affected attachments are also refusing to do enforcement patrols in solidarity with their subordinates. Now, the thing is, when you have enforcement officers requesting body armor to stop high-powered rifle rounds, and they want body cameras constantly going 24/7 to document their encounters, they're asking for these things. They want training in drugs so that they can know what's going on if they have somebody who they're like trying to interact with that's tweaking out on a boat, because by the way, that is a huge issue on so many fishing vessels. There are so many different fishermen that are out there doing drugs. By the way, don't do drugs. I'm sorry, but that is completely unsafe. Like, fishing all on its own is already unsafe, and if you are trying to add any kind of an inebriative substance to that mix, there is something severely wrong. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having a little bit of a green cigarette once in a while. And by green cigarette, I mean the wacky backy, the baggie of oregano type stuff that we used to get when we were in junior high. I'm gonna be quiet now. But seriously, if you're going to be out on a fishing boat and you are going to be on drugs, any kind of drugs that isn't just like a cigarette or a little bit of marijuana, you are putting and by a little bit of marijuana, I mean if you have a high tolerance for marijuana and you have like just 3 or 4 puffs off of a joint, and then you put that bugger out and then you go back for another one later, like in multiple hours in between, and you have like a really high tolerance, that's a little bit. But if you have like a really low tolerance and you're out there like smoking a whole ass joint and you're sitting there like whacking out on the water, you are still putting everybody else on that boat in risk. You are putting yourself and everyone else on the boat in risk if you are doing drugs on a vessel. I am just saying, I have so much against people who go out fishing and they think that it's a good idea to be on drugs on the boat. Like, quit. Just quit. Go be homeless. I don't care. You are putting everyone in danger by being on that boat on drugs. You do not deserve to be on the water if you are going to be on cocaine, or the crank, or any of that other fudge while you are out fishing. If you're going to be on any kind of a drug while you are fishing, if you're drinking while you're on the fishing boat, you're a monster, because you are putting not just yourself but every single other person on that boat at risk, because you never know what kind of a mess up you could make that could cause somebody else to go overboard. Any fishermen who are watching this, please remember that. There are no fishermen watching this. But yeah, with no enforcement on the water, thousands of pounds of illegally caught lobster are now being landed daily at government wharfs in Lower Saunierville, Harborville, and Yarmouth. What the fudge, Yarmouth? Cut that shiz out! Y'all need to be tamed. According to Colin Sparrow, president of the Unified Fisheries Conservation Alliance, a portion is being moved in broad daylight with rented trucks to meet up with licensed buyers who are mixing them with illegally caught lobster. Unrespectable, just completely unrespectable of any plant to do that. If you are any kind of illegally run lobster seller and you are doing this with illegally caught lobster, you're disgusting. If you are actually helping the poachers, you're a piece of shit. Shit! Go lay down. Go lay down. Better yet. Hey, Skelly. Hey, Skelly. I got a buddy for you. You got a buddy for me? What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? What have you been up to? You been poaching the lobsters? You lobster poaching bastard. That's what you get. I'm going to call Scully on you, and he's going to give you the old left, right, pump, 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 pump. Both at the same time, fun mucker. I mean, it could be worse. I could have just called Cartman. Oh, gosh. Another large portion, according to the article, is being transwhipped to southwest New Brunswick and sold as gray zone lobster caught in disputed water between Canada and the United States. It is heartbreaking for our membership to see what's happening, said Sproul on Wednesday. For generations, these families have invested money and time stewarding the resource these coastal communities rely upon. Now, they're seeing it destroyed under their noses with no consideration by government for the future of our children or coastal communities. Sources tell the Chronicle Herald that fisheries officers have been warned that speaking to the media about their current job could lead to suspension. Which, seriously? No, honey. They should be allowed to talk to whoever they want. If it was me, I would fully take the suspension. I would let myself get fired because I would sing like a canary. Do you know how fast I would be up there singing to thee about the situation at hand? I'd sing so loud you could not stand. I'm just saying. Now, retired fisheries officers, however, are speaking out in defiance. We have told senior DFO management in the past countless times that the violence is getting worse. It's ramping up, said Gary Hutchins, who retired as district supervisor at the Digby Detachment in 2020 after 32 years with the DFO. So the fellas who are, like, retired are all speaking up. They're all just like, ha! Bet, buddy. I'ma sing. They're doing exactly what I would do. I'd be all over there all, like, singing like a canary. Now, there is a sector of the community who believe that they are untouchable, that the DFO, the police, won't do anything. Hutchins said that in rural areas such as southwest Nova Scotia, that's where I was raised. My entire family was a part of the fishing community. Like, my entire life was, like, spent within, like, around the fishing community. So, hey, y'all. Everyone knows where the fisheries officers live. That is very true, and it should not be true. We should all have more privacy. Y'all should be less nosy. Everybody in small towns, y'all need to be less nosy. Get out of each other's business. Nobody needs to know where everyone else lives. Just saying. It's creepy. The fact that everyone knows where everyone lives in the small towns is freaking creepy. Unless you are actually friends with that person and you have showed up to go have a beer with them, like, invite it. You shouldn't know where they live. It's literally just Creepsville that anybody in these small towns thinks that it's normal to just literally have every single person in town's home mapped out. Like, it's weird. Just saying. He said that there have been incidents of officers' personal property getting vandalized at their homes, and that they are targeted when out in the community on their off time. I've never personally seen that, but I have heard about it, and it's wrong. It's not okay. Like, leave these poor people alone. They're just here to do their jobs. They're just conservationists. They're just fudge off. Gosh darn it. Yeah, if you were out there and you were a legal fisherman and you seen somebody out doing illegal actions on any boat, you would probably report it. Just saying. Just the same as everybody says, oh, well, I can't stand the police, but as soon as somebody breaks into your house or attacks you or you get mugged, what's the first thing that you do? You call the police. Hypocrites. Anyway, the people at the very top running the department, the director general, the head of enforcement, the minister, and the deputy minister, they are doing nothing to support fishery officers in a way that helps them get their job done, said Hutchins. Which is not okay. They need to get their job done. They need to do what they need to do so that everybody is actually following the rules and so that our harbors are properly maintained so that people don't start going broke within 5 years from poaching because there's nothing left. Thunk! The Fisheries Act is clear. The Aboriginal fisheries regulations are very clear. The policies are clear. Fisheries officers can be enforcing and charging for a lot of those violations you are seeing. But every time that they do, someone at the regional level is making the decision in consultation with the minister's office that they will drop the charges. So they go out and they make seizures and get arrests and they get assaulted only to get ready to go to court, and then somebody in the department from the regional director on top to tell them that they're going to drop the charges as a gesture of good faith so that the bands will negotiate with them. You're pieces of shit. Just put the freaking charges on. Don't do gestures of good faith because they're not showing any of y'all any gestures of good faith. I'm sorry, but they're not. Like, if they're literally attacking the people who are just going out trying to maintain regulations, they're pieces of freaking shit. They deserve to be charged if they are out there breaking the regulations and fishing illegally, just as poachers. I don't even give a shit if you're just a deckhand on the boat and you don't have a license. As long as your skipper has taught you properly and you are trained well enough to actually know how to do your job, I don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't give a fuck if you have a license. Your skipper's the one who needs to have a license. You need to follow all of the regulations to make sure that you are, like, maintaining the actual population of the species while still harvesting. However, I do give a fuck if you are out there fishing out of season. I do give a fuck if you are out there attacking the poor DFO officers for just doing their jobs. Because I'm sorry, but no, you're asshats. Ugh. Now, when fishing seasons open and the fishery officers begin inspections on the wharfs and the water of licensed commercial fishermen, they then get accused of ganging up on the fishermen, which that's not okay. And apparently they get accused of ganging up on the other fishermen while allowing another segment of the population to fish outside of federal laws, which isn't true. They're not doing that. They're trying to do their jobs properly, and the higher-ups aren't freaking letting them. It's ridiculous, and it's gross, and it needs to be stopped. But they're not going to stop it. They're going to let it keep happening. The bootlegger has labeled us as racist, then is sending them out to work. Dan Fleck, who retired in 2020 as a district field supervisor after 32 years with the DFO, told the Chronicle Herald on Monday. Why would they go out and risk life and limb to arrest people and do all of those things and then have no prosecution? Because that is a very good question. I understand why they are asking these questions. I understand why they are refusing unsafe work. I understand why they don't want to go out on the water anymore. I understand why they don't want to go do their jobs anymore, because they are not only being denied body armor, when they are putting in literal statements that these people are shooting high-powered weapons at them. Like, they are getting shot at, they are getting attacked, they are getting disarmed by fishermen who aren't even actual fishermen, they're poachers. I refuse to call a poacher a fisherman. I shouldn't even be saying that. Because if you're out there poaching, you're not a real fisherman. You're a piece of shit. If you're on a licensed boat, and you're in season, I don't give a shit what you do. But you know what? If you're out there poaching, like actually poaching, you're a piece of shit. And that's the end of the story. But I don't know what the point of this is, except for be nice to your local DFO officers. They're not being racist. They are doing their jobs. If any of them are being racist, then they deserve to lose their jobs, because that's just wrong and disgusting. If you decide to go and attack a DFO officer, and or if you are fishing out of season, if you are a poacher, if you're a cleared, utter poacher, and or you are buying and selling illegally poached fish products and seafood, you're a disgusting monster. Give the DFO their goddamn body cameras and armor. Give them training. Give them actual weapons. And yes, for God's sakes, give them the drug training, because especially down in southwestern Nova Scotia, they're going to need it. There's way too many fishermen out on boats on cocaine. I'm going to try not to say the actual name of it while I'm on camera. I'm going to try to make weird versions of words that I think I should definitely. Anyways, tell me what you guys think about any of this down in the comments, please and thank you. Please like the video if you like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please dislike the video if you dislike the video. You probably are going to dislike the video because it was literally just me ranting about the DFO. Yeah. I love you guys. I will see you in the next long form. I just really wanted to rant about this. Bye-bye. Mwah.